Hi everyone. So today we're going to work on strings and we're going to go over strings which are not too dissimilar from lists. We're going to go through strings built-in methods and then we're going to have a look at Lab 6, which actually makes you create the Python built-in string functions yourself. So it's a really nice way, rather than just memorizing a whole bunch of functions, built-in Python functions, you're actually going to create your own for homework, which is, I think, really exciting. So let's start with strings. So until obviously we've worked with strings all semester, but we haven't actually looked inside of them until now. So for example, we've looked at strings as a whole object like hello world, Fred, California, yellow. Now we're going to look at what they're made of and how to process them, convert them, shorten them, etc. So strings are also collections, like sequences. So they have list-like elements. Um, so I think actually the best way is to show you this slide. So this is, as you can see, is very similar to the slide you had on lists. So you can almost think of a string as a list of characters where each element, is just one character. And a character can be an empty string, it can be a question mark, a capitalized or lowercase letter as well. And just like lists, you have this method length that returns the length of the list. Sorry, the length of the string. And here, for example, you can see that the first index number, just like a list, starts with 0 for your string. And then the last index number is the length of the string minus 1. And similar to lists, you can also do where you start with minus 1 to access the last element, and you can do the length minus the length to get the first if you want to work backwards as well. Now, we looked at this early on. Do you remember when we compared strings using the greater than or less than to try to put them into alphabetical order? So we're going to address that again. So we can compare strings. So as with numbers, you can compare strings to see if they're equal, greater than, less than. So before we get into that one, I just want to start with some simple strings. So if you could pull up your Python terminal, and let's go into interactive mode, and let's create a string, my string, and we'll say hello world with a space, and then we'll check that. There's our hello world. So let's go and get my string index 1, and you can see here it returns E. If we wanted to say index 5, that would return the empty space. So you can see here there's empty spaces counted as a character, just like anything else. And let's have a go at these comparison ones. So let's say str1 equals Fred, str2 equals Flintstone. And then we say, is string 1 the same as string 2? False. Is string 1 greater than string 2? And this is true because you can see here F is obviously the same, but R is greater than L. So the value of R is greater than L, so that is true. And if we were to reverse that, then that would be false here. Just like lists, we can concatenate strings together. And we've actually seen this. And if you remember way back when we discussed printing things, we actually said you can print things with a comma or you can print things with a plus sign to concatenate strings together. So here, for example, we can create two strings, S1, foo, S2 equals bar. And then if I say S1 concatenated with S2, that joins the two strings together and gives you foo bar. And similarly, we can say, S1 multiplied by 3, it gives you foo foo foo, so the operator precedence for the plus sign and the asterisk is the asterisk goes before, just like addition and multiplication. So for example, if we were to say S1 concatenate with S2 repeat 3 times, the repeat goes first, so the S2 times 3, so it goes ba ba ba, and then that gets concatenated with the foo. So you can see there. And then similar to lists, we have our in and not in built-in Python functions. So remember str1 was Fred, str2 was Flintstone. So if we say str1 in str2, that is false, obviously. But if we go back to my string where we had hello world, we could say hell in my string, and that is true. That is inside of my string. So strings are not like lists in the sense that they are immutable. So we can't change the contents of a string. So you can't say something like this, which you could do with a list. But what you can do is replace it with a new string. So for example, if we had a string like Winston, and then we wanted to add Winston's last name, we could say Winston. So name equals name plus, I'm going to do a space, Churchill. So now we look at name, and now it's a different string. So it's not that we've changed it, we've created a new string. Now loops and strings are really important, and this is when we really come back to your understanding of for loops by item and for loops by index. There's really no getting away from this. So we can loop through strings, you know, just like we can loop through lists. So let's have a loop at this first example, which is for loop by item. So if you want to go ahead and pull up Python Tutor, and let's put in my string here for hello world. Okay. So we're going to say for ch in my string, print ch times 2. So let's actually have a look and see what's happening behind the scenes. So there's my string. Now, on every iteration of this for loop, ch for character is going to have the value, or the value of the next item, which is a character in the string my string. So in the first iteration, ch is going to have the value h, because that's the first character in the string my string. Then we're going to multiply that by 2, and we're going to print that, so it's going to print hh. Then the next value of ch is going to be e, because it's the next item in the string. I'm going to print ee. Then I'm going to get l, and then I'm going to get another l, get the o. Then we're going to get the space, which you won't see, but you can see here ch is the space. And then when we print the w, you'll see it. There's the 2 spaces that were printed. And then we'll go through and we'll print each character twice. And at the end, we've got to the end of my string, and we stop. So that's a for loop by item using a string. So this is a really important one to know, and it shouldn't be a far jump. If you understand for loops by item with lists, then really this is just the same. You just think of every item, you know, you can think of your string as a list of characters, and so you're going through one character at a time. Now we can also do the same thing with the for loop by index. So if we copy this and we replace that, so you can see here that we're using the same things that we use with lists. We have a range, the length, instead of the length of the list, it's the length of my string. And then we're going to print, you know, that index, that character, and then we're going to multiply it by 2. So it just does exactly the same thing, except when you look at the back end, instead of, you know, having the value of the item, it has the value of the index. So here I is equal to 0. So then we're going to get index 0 of your string, which is H. Multiply that by 2. We're going to get index 1 of your string, which is E. Index 2, and so forth. You can see, this is not a big jump from your for loops with lists. Good. So if you're not sure about for loop by item and for loop by index, this is the time to go back and review that in list part 1. Okay. And you can also traverse through your strings using using while loops, which is, essentially the same as your for loop by index. So I'm going to let you have a look at that. Don't forget to increment your I. So we say while I is less than the length, and then you print each character using I. You can do something else if you wish. Increment I, and you keep looping till you're done. So I think we know this while loop very well, but please, by all means, try it with your strings. Now, there's a whole bunch of things we can do with strings. For example, we do our slicing, and just like we looked at with lists, if we're doing our slicing, it's end plus 1, not end. And again, in the Gaddis book, it says end, but what it really means is end plus 1. So it returns a new string with characters starting with the first character, the start character, and then up to, but not including the end, which so i.e. it's n plus 1. And like before, if the start is unspecified, the index is 0. If the end is unspecified, it's the last index. And you can also have a step variable. So if the step is unspecified, it's just a regular step 1. So let's have a look. Here is my string again. So we could say my string, and then we could slice it starting with index 6 going up to n plus 1. Sorry, starting with 1 going up to n plus 1, 6, so really 5. So it returns a new string. Here is an example where we start with the first index, we go up to the 9th. Sorry, we start with index 0, we go up to the 9th, and then we go in steps of 2. So we skip every other character, and then we return this string. And then say you started with the first index, you go all the way to the end and you skip every other character. That's what you get. So you can see it's not very dissimilar to lists. And we've also seen how strings are represented by ASCII numbers. So we've seen this before. So for example, a capital A is represented by the number 65. A small a is represented by 97. And you also have numbers for different characters like exclamation mark, question mark, things like that. So now that we have access to them, we're actually going to use these in Python so that we can access these and convert them. So let's have a look at these two built-in functions, ord and chr. So ord converts a character to an ASCII number. So let's have a look. So if we say ord, and let's give it the character lowercase a, you can see that it returns 97. So if we go and look in this chart, there's a and 97. If we did uppercase a, it would return 65. And similarly, if we did it the other way around, we could convert an ASCII number to a character. So we could say CHR, and then let's say 65, and that will give us uppercase A. Let's do a different one, like say we wanted to get a comma, we could say 44, and that will give us a comma, and so forth. So we can use these two built-in Python functions to convert from one to the other. And there's also other things we can do, like we can convert to lowercase, we can convert to uppercase, and there's a whole bunch of built-in methods for strings. So let's go ahead and have a look at some of them. So these string methods are like testing methods. They return a boolean. They return true or false. So just like with lists, we give the name of the string, dot, the method, and then any arguments it takes. So let's have a look at some of these. So if we go back to my string, so we have hello world. Now this first method says, is al_num, is the string alphanumeric, i.e. does it contain both letters and numbers? So if we said my string is al_num, it would return false, because my string hello world only contains, characters that are alphabetical, like letters or spaces. It doesn't contain numbers. So for example, if I were to say my string num equals test1, and then I say my string num dot is al_num, then it's true because it contains a number as well. And then we have is alpha, is the string alphabetical? So now if I said my string is alpha, that would, oh, that would be false, because I don't have just characters. I also have the space in there. So I'd have to have something else, like let's say, let's use my string 2 is hello. So I say my string 2 is alpha, and now it's true. Okay. Now, is digit, is the string all numerical? So let's do it this way for a change. Let's say 1, 2, 3 dot is digit, and then it's true. So that string only contains numbers. Then we also have is lower and is upper. So this checks if the string is all lowercase or is the string all uppercase. So for example, if I said my string dot is lower, this is true. All the characters in my string is lowercase. And then I can just show you with upper. Obviously, not all the strings are uppercase, so that's false. Is space, is the string all spaces? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But these two are very important. Starts with and ends with. So does the string start with a particular substring, and does the string end with a particular substring? So for example, let's look at my string again. So if I say my string starts with hell, that is true. And then we can look at ends with, and then let's give it something else to end with 2, that is false. So you do want to be familiar with these testing methods. And then you also want to know the string modification methods. Obviously, this creates a new string based on a given string. So for example, I'll show you an example. So for example, if we had my string dot upper, that returns a new string hello world, but my string stays the same. So you would need to assign that to a new string. So you would need to say, new string equals my string dot upper, and then new string would have the capitalized version. So that's why it's really important to remember that these are creating a new string. They're not modifying the old string. So if you're using these, you need to assign them to new values. Okay, so we have lower that converts everything to lower. So, if I said new string lower, you can see that. We also have L strip and R strip and just strip. So you've already seen these with the \n from the right hand side. You can also strip, other things like, it says spaces, but if you put something inside of there, it will strip whatever you want it to. So, with the R strip, we've used \n inside of it. So you can strip things from the right side of the string, the left side of the string, or both sides of the string. And then we also have split. And split string splits a string into a list of words. So this is the opposite of join. So let's actually have a look at it in a bit more detail. So it splits a string into a list. So let's start with a string. I'm going to copy. This is kind of a nonsensical sentence in French. You can create your own sentence, but just separate each thing that you want to separate with a comma and a space. So my string says, Bonjour, je m'appelle Beste, j'ai 12 ans, which if you know French, it's nonsense. And then we're going to split this string using a comma and a space. So you can see that each of these phrases has a comma and a space separating them. And then if we check X, now each of those things has been separated into a list, and each of those things has become an element in this list X. So that's split. And then we also have string search methods. So we have find and rfind and replace. So let's have a look at these. So let's look at my string again. So if I wanted the index where a particular substring would start, so for example, I could say my string find, I could say, so you can see this phrase starts at index 0 because that's the first. Obviously it starts with hello, hell. And then we have rfind, which will give you the rightmost index of the substring. So if we said, for example, let's create a new string. Let's call it bamboozle. So I created a string test, it's bamboozle. If I say test.rfind, and let's find the second B. Okay. Not the second. Let's find the rightmost index of B. So that will be the second B, which is at index 0, 1, 2, 3. And then if we did that one with O, you can see that the rightmost one is at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see that the rfind is returning the rightmost instances and returning the index of that. Then we have replace, so it swaps the new thing for the old thing in a new copy of the string. So if we, for example, had old string, la-di-da, and then we wanted to create a new string, and this is the old string, but we're going to replace the first la with a much longer la. Now, if we look at new string, there it is. And if we look at old string, it's still the original there as well. Okay. Now, these are important, string accumulators. So we're going to go through these in detail, but I guess we'll have a look at this slide briefly. So we've already seen accumulators with numbers. You know, we have an integer and then we use some kind of accumulator and we say count equals count plus 1. Or total expenses equal total expenses plus new expense. So for string accumulators, we also have to join strings together or strings with characters. So here's two examples of, and I would like you to know both of them. And again, this is by item and by index. So it is really important that you know your by items and by your by indices. So this one, you know, I strongly recommend that you have a go and run it. But we're actually going to run it in Python Tutor Visualize together. So let me do it this way. So copy this. And so we have string 1, truth cannot wait. String 2 is an empty string. And then we say for C in string 1, so we're going to iterate through string 1. String2 equals string2 concatenate with C. And at the end, we're going to print string2. So let's have a look at what's going on. So we have string1, truth cannot wait. String2 is an empty string. We enter the for loop. The first value of C is the first item because we're doing this for loop by item. So it has the value T, right? Because that's the first character in the string. Then we say string2 equals string2, which was an empty string. So before it was an empty string, right? Concatenate with C, which is a T. So empty string plus T equals T. So now string2 has the value T. So we go back. Now C has the value R. So now we say string2 equals T plus R, which is TR, obviously. Then we say C equals U. So now we say string2 TR plus U, which is TRU. Then we have T again. So TRU plus T. So what we're doing here is we're building a copy of Truth Cannot Wait by concatenating each character one at a time and building up this string accumulator, string2. And if you go all the way through the end, you'll see that it creates this nice copy and prints out Truth Cannot Wait for string2. This is a really important one to understand. So I really hope you take the time to go through it, step through it. And if there's something you don't understand, especially about this part where you're actually concatenating the str2 and the C together, just rewind and rewatch and come and talk to us if you have questions about that one. And I can also go back and just show you again. So if we start off all the way, we started off, remember, str2 was an empty string, and so we started off with an empty string concatenate with the first target variable T, and then we do the R, TR, and then TR plus U, and then TRU plus T, and so forth. And this version by index is doing exactly the same thing, but it's doing it by index. We're saying str2 concatenate with str1 index I. So these are really important ones. And now I'd really like you to have a go and try this. So you can pause the video in a moment and try reversing a string. How could you do it with a for loop by item? So if we start with str1, truth cannot wait, and an empty string, str3, or it can be 2, it doesn't matter. And instead of copying truth cannot wait using your for loop by item, how could you reverse that string? And you don't have to do anything much different from what you have here, but it's this part that's really important. So if you pause the video, it'd be really good if you can have a go and see if you can do this. And then, so I'm going to give the answer now, so have a go. So here is the answer. So it's literally, you just reverse. So instead of str2 plus C, you're saying C plus str. So let's step through this one in Python Tutor Visualize and understand how this works, because this is very important. Okay, so just like before, we have str1, truth cannot wait. Then we have str3, empty string. And just like before, C has the value T. Now, instead of saying str3 concatenate with C, we say C concatenate with str3. So we're saying T plus empty string. In the first instance, this isn't going to make any difference. It's still going to be T. Now we go and we have R. Now we say R concatenate with str3. Now you see the difference. Before it was TR, now it's RT. Then we go again and we get U. And we say U concatenate with RT. Gives U, U, RT. And then each time we get a new character, we add it to the start. So then we say TURT. And you can see here that we're building a reverse. Just so you keep building it. And then we print the reverse. So this swap will give you the reverse because instead of adding it to the end, it's adding it to the beginning. So I think this is a really nice one to practice and to make sure you understand and compare the two methods, and just make sure that you feel comfortable. And if not, just come and ask questions and we're happy to go over that with you.